Welcome to Stupid Money. Not that money is stupid. Most of us would love to have more of it, but sometimes we make stupid decisions with it. You don't have to. This is the show that unpacks how to stop making stupid decisions so you can be smarter with your money and have a happier, fulfilled life. Join us today as we take a look at investing. Thank you for joining us. I'm Diana, and I'm here with John and Vivian. What's a crazy, stupid thing we do with our money?
We take vacations and we spend too much money.
Oh, I know. But we get carried away, and besides the peer pressure, I don't want to be shown up by someone who's having more fun than I am.
And when I'm on vacation, I gotta go get some money, so I go pay the fees at an ATM machine.
Oh.
That's stupid.
So stupid. So either I'm careless, I don't really care, I'm not paying attention to where my money is going.
Or not prepared.
Or I'm not prepared, so it's still stupid. You're right. Our episode today is on investing. And just to be clear, our use of the word investing refers to money outside of money we're investing in retirement, right? A retirement fund.
Correct.
So having established that, though, I'm pretty excited about this episode because I feel like to a lot of people, investing is a foreign world, a little scary. So I'm going to say this. Why should I invest?
But otherwise, you're gonna lose money.
Just like that.
Just like that. Especially if you have that money in a bank account, like a checking account or a savings account. Let's say inflation is 2% and you're earning 1%, you're losing 1%.
Just through the bank.
So you've got to be intentional and plan how you want that money to be invested.
I can't wait to hear more. So John, why don't we hit the streets and discover what people had to say on investing, and we'll be right back.
What is your first principle of investing?
I always look for growth. Growth in earnings, growth in revenues is generally the first thing that I look for in investment.
I want to get money back where I invest my money.
Diversify, so I try to not have things in more than one kind of either stock or mutual fund or 401k.
Hate to say it, but slow and steady wins the race. It's easy to throw all your dimes and pennies out there for one big investment, but a year later it might all be gone.
What else you got in mind on investing?
We also recently bought an apartment, my partner and I, in a neighborhood that's kind of up and coming, so I'm hoping that real estate investment will pay off in a couple of years.
Depends on, time frame is generally an issue. I normally look for things that are more short term, so that's something I focus on.
The stock market can go up and down, so that's a whole different determination, but I guess if you have your stuff in more than one fund, the chances of you just going broke in one day are a little bit less.
Invest in something safe that'll provide good returns.
Can you give an example?
Blue chip companies, I guess, like, Microsoft, IBM. But I don't work in the financial sector, so I don't know a lot about this.
What would you rather invest in, real estate or the stock market?
That's a good question. I feel like the stock market, you have almost endless options. Either this stock, that stock. Real estate, a bit different. It's kind of big wave. So I would say stocks.
I don't know. I can't wrap my brain around the stock market. I really don't understand how it works or what it is. So I'm going to say that real estate is something I can understand.
Well, in New York, it's real estate, because that's where your money is, right up in the real estate. So if you got a good area and you bought something early on in the game, then you're good with the real estate.
Real estate should be more stable, but considering what happened in 2008, we're not sure. But I would assume real estate would be safer.
Do you follow your own advice?
Not usually.
Thank you so much.
That was pretty cool, John. You actually got to do investment questions on Wall Street?
Yeah, we saw a guy that was holding a sign, said, friendly liberal. But when we talked to him, it didn't seem like he was financially liberal at all.
Oh, really? It was for kicks. So, John, I want to go back, though, to an earlier comment you made. You had me at, or you'll be losing money.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, before we get started, can we just establish something? Everything that we are discussing here today are just investing principles, right? We want everyone to know that because we're
Yes,
not professionals.
absolutely.
We're not professionals and we're not giving you professional advice. Okay.
Very
So
good.
we're unpacking principles.
Principles, yes, not professional advice.
Thank you, Vivian.
You're welcome.
A number of years ago, and some of the people that I've talked with and got acquainted with, this person said, "Looky here, John, I'm actually made $500 on the internet, stock market." He had taken some of his monies, put it in there, and he was just making money hand over fist. He said, "Why don't you do it?" I said, "No, I don't want to do it." He said, "I'm going to give some of this money to the church." And I said, "Well, if you do, you better rake it off and give it now, or you may lose it." And we went on our way, did a lot of other things, saw him a couple of years later, and I said, "How did it go?" He said, "Well, I lost it all." You really don't want to invest in the stock market unless you're willing to lose it. And most of us are not equipped, education-wise, to be able to handle that risk, but we think we are. And the industry makes it possible for us to do everything that the big people do. But we've really got to be careful.
We have to increase our knowledge.
Increase our knowledge. As a matter of fact, you've got to understand your risk. You've got to realize that nobody cares about your money as much as you do. And then you need to educate yourself. You may not make decisions, but you've got to educate yourself so you can talk to the professionals. Otherwise, they're just going to tell you this, that, this, and you're just going to follow along blindly. At least educate yourself so you know what you're talking about.
So principle number one, when dealing with investments, it's a risky business.
Risky business.
Don't invest money you're not willing to lose. Point number two was?
Nobody cares about your money as much as you do.
So research. Do your homework.
And it's your responsibility. It's your money.
When you're doing the investments, you have to make sure that you are not using your retirement funds. This is outside of retirement, as you mentioned before. This is also monies that you have set aside that you're just going to use for that. It is not monies that you're using for your tax purposes. It's not monies that you're going to use for debt management. This is outside of that.
And it's not money that you're using for your house.
So it might be part of my budgeting, but it's not part of the categories that I'm setting aside for regular life.
Yes.
This is really discretionary money that has no tag to it.
So once I have this discretionary money, this savings, is that the key then to now being able to start investing?
Seems like a long time ago now, but I had $3,000 just sitting there. I decided to invest it. So I invested it in an up-and-coming restaurant. And I would even go into that restaurant and say, "You know, I own part of this." And the cashier would just look at me like a deer in the headlights.
You probably made her nervous.
Probably did. She, I own a little tiny bit of it. But after I bought that, it was a highly rated company, but ratings change. And all of a sudden, I looked at my account. It had dropped 50%. And I said, "Oh, great." But I decided, here's my plan. I'm going to wait till it comes back. 3 years later, it came back. It made some money. I knew how much I wanted to make. I sold it. And then that stock split and doubled.
No.
Oh,
And then I
wow.
kicked myself because the greed kicked in. But then I got to thinking, no, forget it. I stick to my plan.
And you did what you planned to do?
I did what I planned to do. At least I didn't lose any money.
Yeah.
And so I guess part of what I'm hearing you say is that we have to think long term in investing.
You will have to think long term unless you're trying to do a day trading, and that is a totally different beast. You don't want to do that.
I wanted to ask John, I just mentioned, reallocating your funds, because oftentimes they'll tell you, go in and reallocate your funds because you probably can do better. Is that something that we should be doing? Am I capable of doing that?
Yes, you can reallocate your funds all day long if you want to, I suppose, because society has asked for that, so the industry has provided it. So if I go into my retirement account, for example, mine, I can reallocate it, or I can say, please give me some advice for a fee, and then I will reallocate it. Or I can just say, I'm going to put it in a 2020 targeted account or 2025 or whatever into the future. Or you can say, you do everything. All those have different fees.
That's all been super practical. Stick around for more right after this break.
Hey guys, welcome to today's Money Hack. So, check it out. Most car owners spend about $700 a year maintaining a single vehicle. we're gonna be taking a look at easy fixes that will save you money in that department. The 3 things we're gonna be looking at today are changing your air filter, changing your windshield wipers, and replacing a headlight bulb. Now, we're focusing on the easy part. Leave the big jobs for the pro mechanics. These are car maintenance jobs that will take you about 5 minutes or less. Or to put it another way, these are things that you can do in the time that it takes you to make a sandwich, iron a dress shirt, or watch one of those amazing cat videos on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, that is a great place to start. There are tons of videos that will walk you through the steps needed to finish these jobs. The first fix that we are going to talk about is the air filter. This should be swapped out about 15 to 45,000 miles, depending on the car and the conditions you normally drive in. If you go to a mechanic, they usually charge you about $20 to $40, sometimes more. If you do it yourself, you can buy a filter for about $10 and have the job done in 1 or 2 minutes. It's pretty easy. Not only do you save at least $10 to $30, but you save yourself a trip to the mechanic shop. Another easy fix is changing your windshield wipers. Wipers cost about $10 to $15 per blade, but a mechanic will likely charge you another $10 to $40 to install them. Instead, install them yourself. Blades usually come with an easy step-by-step directions, and the job can usually be done in 5 minutes or less. Our last easy job is replacing a headlight bulb. Driving around a one-eyed vehicle is a hazard to yourself and others. So be sure to address a headlight as soon as you notice it's out. A bulb usually costs about $15 to $20, and a mechanic will usually charge you an additional $20 to $75 to install it. Typically, this will take you about 5 minutes or less, though it could take you longer with certain vehicles. A YouTube video will likely be helpful the first time you replace your headlight bulb, but again, it's usually an easy process. Add all these auto fixes together and you've saved yourself at a minimum $30, but likely closer to $50 to $80, all for things that take about 5 minutes or less. I hope this helps you save some money in the future. Thanks for joining us on today's Money Hack. See you next time.
It's time again for Stewardship for Dummies with Dave and his friend, Grandpa Forgetful. Today, they will talk to us about investing. Take a look.
Grandpa, is that really you? Yeah, Sonny. What do you think? I don't know what to think. Why are you wearing a wig? Sonny, it's not a wig. It's a cranial prosthesis. What? Granola says I look 10 years younger. Well, why have you all of a sudden decided to wear that? Oh, it's a new company I'm investing in, and they said I could double my money the first year, and I wanted to be their first customer. Well, how does Grandma feel about that? Ooh, she thirsted through a hissy fit until she saw me, and woo, now she likes it. So what's the name of this company? It is Golden Locks Prosthesis and More Inc. What's the hair made out of? They said it's genuine imitation horse's name. Genuine imitation. And you invested in this company? Yep. Gonna make Grandma and me rich. Well, how much research did you do into the company? Research? Why would I want to research into a company whose owner's name is Honest John? Grandpa, have you considered what would happen if this company doesn't make it? Yep. I'm going to invest in a Rolex watch company from Sweetlets, Tennessee. Rolex watch company was created in 1905 there in London, not Tennessee. Well, to show you how nice these watches are, I got you an Emerald Rolex watch. Wow. Where is it? Hip pocket. Well, let me get it. Wait a minute, Grandpa, that's not a real Rolex. It isn't emerald. Emerald is green. Well, wait till you wear it for a while. You know, you really need to learn investing 101. Well, I shoulda. Because any 10-year-old would know not to invest in these companies. Sonny, can you do me a favor? Well, I'll try. Can you fetch me a 10-year-old before Grandma finds out?
We're excited to have Charles join us as our special guest for today's episode. He's going to share with us some pointers on investments. Join us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Stupid Money. I'm John Mathews, and we have in Skype Charles Real. You're calling from where?
Ottawa, Tennessee, just outside of Chattanooga, John.
Thank you for coming into our program. We're talking about investing. Tell me your story.
Well, the story I have to tell happened about 15 years ago now. My kids were pretty small. I had some extra money just lying around. I didn't have kids in school yet, so I wasn't funding education. So I decided that I was going to do something. I was going to really make some quick money fast. And so somehow I got in contact with some future trading. And they had contacted me and they sold me on this futures trading. And I thought, wow, they were giving me the returns I could get, 30% a year, 40% a year, 50% a year. And, it sounded great. And of course, who doesn't want to, if you can just earn money without having to work for it, that would be great. Mm-hmm. So I was sold. So I was young enough and I said, sure, I'm going to do this. So I really didn't kind of tell my wife at the beginning I was going to do this. I just said, I've got this thing I'm going to do. So I took about $15,000 and I gave it to these guys. And they started trading this money for me. And they would, trade it in this futures like orange juice or this crop or that crop or oil or whatever was the hottest, latest, greatest thing. And so after a while, what was happening was I realized that every time they called me for a trade, they would get a commission when they sold. And then when they purchased, they got another commission. So they were getting commissions on buying and selling. So here I was, I may make a couple of $1,000s, but then maybe I'd lose $1,500 in the commissions. So I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because I'm making $2,000, but they're eating up my money in all the commissions. And pretty soon I started seeing my principal just eroding away, eroding away, eroding away, and eroding away. And I realized that, I didn't really understand because they were really very, very high pressure. They would call me in about every 6 weeks and they'd say, okay, you need to get out of this and you need to get into this. And at first I was too ignorant to know. And I thought, well, they must know what they're doing. So I'm just going to rely on them to guide me through this process. And then eventually they got to the point where they said, well, we don't normally work with people with the amount of money that you have. Is there more money you can put into this? And then your returns would be greater. Because we normally work with people like, $50,000, $100,000. I'm like, I gave you all my money. That's all I have to give. And in fact, I'm beginning to question this whole deal. So as we went on, I finally got to the point where I'm like, they're making money in this. I'm not. And I said, okay, we just need to stop this whole process. Because again, I just felt I was getting a lot of pressure. I could see they were making money because of the trades. I was not making money because I was losing my principal. And I eventually just said, okay, let's just stop. No more trades. And I almost had to get almost violent with them to get them to stop trading because they just wanted to keep trading. And they would take me, I'm going to have you speak to my manager. I'm going to have you speak to my supervisor, to get me to trade with them. And I just said, forget it. And after several months, I finally said, we're done. I want my money back. I don't want to trade with you guys anymore. I don't think this is going right for me. And so I finally got my money back. When it was all said and done, I got back about $8,000. I had started originally with about 15. Of course, they said I was supposed to make 25,000 when it was all said and done, but I walked away with 8. So I didn't lose everything, but I lost enough where it was painful for me.
Let me ask you a couple of questions. Did you feel like you had educated yourself enough to do this?
Absolutely not. Nope. It was quick, easy money. That's the way I thought it was going to be.
So it was on the internet. There's a greed and fear index. So you would say, "Hey, let's do a quick deal."
Yep. I was in it for the money. I was in it for the greed. I just wanted to turn that money and make money without really having to understand or learn what it was I was trying to do.
And okay, so you got out of this. Then what happened?
Well, I got out of this, and actually, it was very interesting because I wrote them a very detailed letter. When it was all said and done, I said, here's where my grievance is, here's what you guys did, here's how you acted. And I wrote them this letter. About a year and a half later, 2 years later, I got a call from the FCC, Federal Trade Commission, FTC, where they were investigating this company for the practices that they were involved in. And I said, yep, this is how they treated me. And I guess they were investigated. They kind of went out of business soon after that. So I felt like I had been done wrong, and apparently others had been done wrong too.
So they really put the pressure on you to keep feeding them the money.
Oh yeah, they did. They did. And you know, I praise the Lord I didn't have any other money to give them, because I think I would have given into that pressure if I'd had extra money, but I didn't.
Yeah, now I don't want you to get anything in trouble, but you didn't tell your wife about this?
Initially, I was kind of like, I got this thing I'm going to work on. And, you know, she kind of let me handle the finances at that point in time. So she's like, you know, whatever you think is best. So she trusted me. She trusted that I would do what was best.
So when all was said and done, what did she kind of say to you?
You know, it was interesting because I was telling my wife, we were having this interview and reviewing this in our mind. And I said, the amazing thing is she's never brought this up in our marriage as a, you know, remember that one time that you lost all this. She's never said that. She's never used that in any kind of way. And I've always really appreciated that for her because, again, she trusted me because I was the one managing the money at that time, and I didn't do so well.
She didn't have to say anything.
Nope, she didn't have to say anything. Lesson learned.
All right. What advice would you have for people that want to try to do investing?
Know what you're getting into. Understand what it is you're doing. If you know, right now I am investing in the stock market and some stocks that I'm doing, and I understand them. I understand what I'm doing. I understand how they work. I'm not going beyond my limits. I'm not going beyond my means. And, you know, if I understand it, that's great. Futures was totally outside my market. And the way you can do longs and shorts and all this kind of stuff, you know, I just didn't understand it all. So don't get involved in investing that you don't understand or that you can't explain to somebody else what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing.
Good advice. So you have a plan, you're sticking to it, and you're much more intentional about what's taking place.
Yep, exactly.
All right, Charles, thank you for a good story.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad I could share it. I hope it will help others.
I'm John Mathews. This is Stupid Money, and we'll be back right after the break.
Welcome back to Stupid Money. That was an amazing interview. Wasn't it fascinating how his wife
Absolutely.
didn't hang the fact that he had lost all that money over his head?
It was good. Mm-hmm. Lucky man.
Lucky man, blessed man, for sure. Vivian, we've covered a lot of details, fascinating interviews. What are some takeaways on investing that you think we should highlight?
Well, I can think of three things. First of all, protect your principal. Number two, educate, do your research before you begin this. And number three, you have to think long term. You have to think long term and just hang in there.
Speaking of long term, and as one that studies financial principles all the time, I discovered what the interest rate of heaven is.
Do tell.
It's 10,000%. You find it in the story of the rich young ruler. And Jesus says to his disciples, and eternal life. Wow. I get overwhelmed when I think amount of money he's willing to give us on interest and eternal life. As I studied that, I realized it's not about the percentage. It's not about eternal life. It's about Jesus.
Thank you for that beautiful perspective on heaven's investment towards us. And I hope you join us on another episode of Stupid Money.